Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Captain Hunter's podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We got a good episode for you today. Today, we're going to talk about filming the police. Now, I really just wanted to have a rant session. Today's rant session is going to be about people filming the police and antagonizing the police. Why is it that there's just need to antagonize the police? It's one thing, and I totally get it. I totally understand that you want to film the police and you want to make sure that they are held accountable for their actions, whether it's on a motor vehicle stop, whether it's when they're taking a citizen into custody. I totally get that. People out there want to be good, upstanding, law-abiding citizens, want to be protective of their own rights and therefore the rights of their fellow citizens. But I don't get this constant antagonization that's going on here. For example, there was one video that I came across. It's called Central Falls Police Harass Driver and Myself for Recording. And when it came across my Facebook feed, so I see it, and the actual name of the video was something like Ghetto Officer. Now, I don't know why whoever made the video or whoever labeled the video would call this officer ghetto. She certainly was not ghetto in her speech. She was not ghetto in her presentation. She's a police officer. And just because she had brown skin, I don't know if she was Hispanic or black or whatever, some combination thereof, as this new term, racially ambiguous. It doesn't really matter. She was not ghetto in her presentation and whatsoever. It was completely antagonistic of the guy who was filming the video. He's standing very close to where the officers are doing their job. And when he's asked to move aside, to move a little bit down further away, or even by the officer, by the female officer who he's talking about, she tells him to move along and you can't stand here because now you're obstructing free passage and everything like that. Now, she was wrong in her assessment that he's obstructing free passes, that he was loitering and everything like that. You know, don't do stuff like that as police officers. So if you're an officer out there, you're listening, don't do stuff like that, telling people false information, making up stuff. I will get into that in a little bit about how the courts actually feel about that kind of thing. But I think that from a moral perspective, from a leading type of a perspective, as far as police officers, your morality, your integrity and everything like that, don't make stuff up. Don't tell people they're loitering when they're not loitering. Don't tell people they're obstructing free passes when they're not obstructing free passes. Unless other pedestrians, citizens are walking down the street and this person is actually blocking their path and refusing to let them pass, that is obstructing free passes, not simply standing on the sidewalk. It's not loitering unless you're on private property and being told to move, unless you have no other legitimate purpose. So don't take away from the police's integrity because you want to prove a point or whatever. That hurts all officers when one officer does something like that, because these videos go viral and it becomes a problem and a mistake. So the reason I wanted to do this video, like I said, is because I come across a number of videos across Facebook, my own Facebook feed. I see these videos from Cop Watch. I see these videos from all over, and it really bothers me. And we all see these viral videos. We all see them all the time. You know, there's millions of them out there and millions of views to each and every one of them. However, what really bothers me, and I really want to have a rant session, is just about these people who are just doing things to deliberately antagonize the police. As one video that I was watching called Felony Arrest for Filming, Dearborn Police Station Video. You guys can watch all this kind of stuff on YouTube. I'm just kind of naming the video if you type that information in. Felony Arrest for Filming, Dearborn Police Station Video. This guy walks into the Dearborn Police Station in Dearborn, Michigan with a AR-15 assault type rifle strapped around his shoulder. He is actually filming, and his friend walks in with assault rifle and with a sidearm on his hip. He's doing this just to prove a point. He's doing this because the state of Michigan, which is supposed to be an open carry state, and because he's in the public and because he's enters into a public space, into a public building, i.e. the police station, he thinks that he has the right to walk in there and just be armed and with an AR-15. Listen, you're going to get the exact reaction that you're going to get. He was drawn down on by numerous officers. They all pointed their guns at him, and eventually he was arrested for a felony. It doesn't say what the felony charges was, but I can imagine it was for menacing or whatever they would charge. And I actually agree with it. He should have been arrested. You shouldn't be walking into places that are designated for peace and safety zones. That's police stations, schools, hospitals. You know, you shouldn't be walking into places like that just because their places are open to the public or actually are public property. And one day, some legislature, and I'm surprised it's not going to happen. It may happen with these recent shootings that have happened in Ohio and in Texas and all across the nation, really. They're going to get in their head that this open carry stuff is ridiculous. And this open carry stuff and these AR-15s style assault rifles and all these bans and all these background checks are really going to start coming up. They're really going to start cracking down. And people are so resistant to hold on to their rights, and they want to hold on to their rights to own guns or walk around with guns. And this whole macho machismo type of thing that they're really going to paint the legislatures into a corner, and they're going to react. They, the public, are not going to like the reaction. And so we're going to be in for quite a bit of a fight We're going to be in for quite a bit of a fight. You can't be walking into police stations, schools, hospitals, firehouses, city halls, and things like that just because you and with a sidearm on your head. I mean, that's just not wise. I talked a little bit about this in my mass shootings episode. I talked a little bit about it in the history of guns in that episode of my podcast. So check those out and just understand what's going on here. So let me give another video that I watched. It's called Hottie Cop Threatens to Arrest My Family for Recording. Now this guy, apparently he's got a number of videos out here and he's part of some type of organization. Actually, his name is Gavin Seam, S-E-I-M. That's what it says on his YouTube video, Gavin Seam. He's got a couple of other videos. It's part of some type of organization in which he says that cops, particularly Texas cops, are out of control. Essentially what happens in this video that he's recording is he sees someone getting pulled over by the police. He has a very deep distrust and or hatred, most likely distrust for the police officers, particularly where he lives. So he sees someone getting stopped by the police, sees the guy get placed in handcuffs. So now he pulls up behind him at some distance away. It's unclear from the video as to how many feet or yards he is away from the actual motor vehicle stop. He's got his wife and his 4 kids in the car. So it's this guy, his wife, 4 kids in the car. He sees someone being stopped and pulled over by the police. He then stops to start filming. The police officers then do what they had to do as far as taking the person into custody. Apparently the person that they initially stopped in the motor vehicle stop had a warrant. They then stop dealing with the person with the warrant and they come back there to see what the man is doing. So let me just give some understanding to the general public out there as to why police officers would stop what they're doing in order to interact with these people who are a few feet, a few yards, whatever it is away, and try to see what they're doing, as well as why there was that reaction from the Dearborn, Michigan Police Department as far as somebody walking into their police station with an AR-15 type style rifle. You have to understand that police officers have been ambushed. Get that through your thick skulls. Police officers have been ambushed. They are trained, rightfully so, to be aware of their surroundings. So if someone pulls up on them, behind them in a motor vehicle stop, they have no idea who you are and or what your purposes are. So are you filming them, especially when you start filming them? Are you trying to get their tactics? Are you trying to get badge numbers? Are you trying to figure out what they do, where they are? Are you trying to set up an ambush? They have no clue and no idea as to why you're doing what you're doing. And so when you pull up behind them at a motor vehicle stop or when you walk into their police station, they're going to have some type of reaction. People have walked into police stations and started gunning them down. There's another video in which somebody walked into the police station, scoped out the police station, then returned and then started shooting up the place. The guy was Darian Atkinson. He walked into a Biloxi, Mississippi police station, scopes it out, and then returns only to kill a police officer. So this raises the ire, raises the mindset, the suspicion of the officer. And they want to know what you're doing and why you're doing these. These are terrorist activities, types of activities. So you have to be very mindful of all that kind of stuff. So this is why officers get very suspicious when they're being filmed by the public. There was another video I watched in which this guy filming some type of FAA center, some type of FAA building. Police get called. They handle the situation with enough grace and care. And so what happens from there is the guy starts ranting off stuff. Totally antagonistic type of video. Guy starts revealing things about how it's totally legal to film FAA building, and he points to a document and to a memo that was released by the FAA or by the Homeland Security. So I actually looked up the memo that the guy was talking about. Forgive me, it is very difficult for me to find this particular video. I saw it on Facebook. I'm listening to and watching this video, and then I actually looked up the Homeland Security bulletin. So here's just a little bit about this bulletin from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Law enforcement and PSOs are advised to review the guidelines provided in this IB, I guess that stands for bulletin, when encountering individuals photographing or videotaping the exterior of federal buildings, and apply the guidance in performance of their everyday duties to enhance protection of federal facilities. It is important that law enforcement and PSOs uphold the public's general right to photograph the exterior of federal structures while being vigilant with respect to suspicious indicators or terrorist or criminal activities. So citizens have the right to videotape, photograph public buildings as long as they're standing on public property and everything like that. They have the right to do that. So Homeland Security had to remind their officers, their PSOs and police officers of what's going on here, because people are deliberately just doing these things just to see if they can do them. You're walking into places with guns on your hips just to see if you can do them. You're filming and videotaping and photographing public buildings just to see what type of reaction you're going to get from law enforcement. And that's the biggest problem that I have. So let's just ask a simple question. Can a citizen film the police? This question has been asked and answered numerous times, and the quick answer is yes. It is, however, very convoluted as to the answers that you can get. There's an article from City Lab called "The Danger in Recording a Cop." This article was released in 2015, fairly dated. I think it's worth reading. Just a little bit about this article. And remember, this article is fairly old, so I just want to keep that in mind. One of the most recent cases is from July, when a federal district judge in Philadelphia ruled that a lawsuit alleging that police in Collinsdale, Pennsylvania, wrongfully arrested a mother who was recording officers as they allegedly harassed her husband and arrested her daughter could go forward, rejecting the arguments that there are no clearly established right. The Third Circuit has yet to rule whether there's clearly established right. And in May, New York Federal District Court Judge P. Kevin Castell ruled that there was a clear right to record police officers in the case of videographer arrested during an Occupy Wall Street protest, finding that even though the Second Court nor the Supreme Court had articulated a clear right to record police, a reasonable police officer would have been on notice that retaliating against professional journalists for filming an arrest under circumstances alleged would violate the First Amendment. The biggest case that says that we can is from Glick versus Cuniff. This is a case from 2011. The United States Court of Appeals, the First Circuit, held that a citizen has the right to film the police, record the police, audio and video, provided that they are in a place where they deserve to be and they are not interfering with the offices and the operations of the police officers. So yes, the long story short is yes, you can. However, this can still be a case-by-case scenario. It took the state of Massachusetts, I'm not picking any states, just making this clear, it took the state of Massachusetts quite some time to fall in line with this, because there's an article in slate.com which says the federal court rules you have the right to record the cops even in secret. Massachusetts had to stop arresting its citizens. This article is from December 2018. Even though the law or the rules were clearly established back in 2011, Massachusetts was a little slow to get on board because they had a wiretapping law. In other words, in order to record person's conversation, you had to get both parties' consent. And because what they were doing was they were arresting people, because obviously officers are not giving consent to arresting people. So they got smacked down for arresting people for that, even though they were recording audio. And then people started recording people secretively in Massachusetts, right? So maybe your phone's in your pocket, and rather than being held up where the officer can see that you're recording, maybe they had it in their pocket and they were filming arrests and things like that. According to this article, and according to the state laws and everything like that, and according to the federal court, that law got struck down, and you as a citizen or citizens are able to record their officers even in secret. So you can have the phone in your pocket or recording device in your pocket, and you can still record them, and the federal courts have said that this is okay. So the answer to that particular question is yes, you can. So again, I have to get back to why is it that people are doing these types of things? Do you want to exercise your right to believe that it's okay for you to walk around with a gun on your hip? Okay, great. You're showing that you're a tough guy. Do you want to exercise your right so that you can film federal buildings? Okay, then you're a tough guy. You understand you're going to be approached, you're going to be questioned, and now it's just an opportunity for you to flex your muscle. I guess that's what's going on in your brain or in your mind. I think it's absolutely silly. I think there's better uses of police times and resources than to challenge them. Anyone who's filming any type of building on public property, private property, whatever, people are going to call the police, and they have every right to call the police. What are you doing taking pictures of my house? What are you doing taking pictures of these buildings? We had bombings. We've had planes flying into our buildings. We had the Oklahoma City bombing years ago. We have people who are walking into police stations and walking out and only to return and shoot officers. We have people stalking officers. And so they don't know, the police officers don't know why you're taking pictures of their cars when they're entering and exiting their ramp garages and things like that. People have been stalked off duty. All of this type of stuff raises the ire and raises the attention of police officers, and rightfully so. You as a citizen, or anyone as a citizen who's have some stranger just following you around taking pictures of you, you're going to call the police because you're a private citizen. But I would argue that the moment the police officer leaves his or her duty, even though they are technically an officer all the time, but they have a right to be full-fledged citizens and enjoy their privacy. They're not celebrities in that status. Probably get a little pushback about that and a little disagreement, but that's fine. I think a little healthy debate is fine. But I don't think that police officers ought to be stalked when they go to the beach, go to the store, go to their workout facilities and everything like that. So we have to be very careful about what we want to do. So one thing that here's where the pushback is going to come is that we have to understand that people are very much pro-police. They want their police officers to do their job and do it efficiently and to do it effectively. And so you're going to get a lot of pushback. And here's one of those pushbacks, which just came from this year. And this is from slate.com, where it says the Supreme Court just made it easier for police to arrest you for filming them. This is written by Brian Frazell, May 31st, 2019. Once again, this is Slate. The name of the article is the Supreme Court just made it easier for police to arrest you for filming them. So let's just say that the crux of the article says that if you are in a place and you're filming the police and you start jaywalking, police can then arrest you for the jaywalking. Now, this has always been some type of pretext type of stop, but they're expanding it now to people who are filming the police. So if you're at some kind of Black Lives Matters rally or MAGA rally or whatever, and you start doing a little something, you throw something on the ground for littering, or now you really are loitering, or you're in a place where you shouldn't be, jaywalking or doing something else very innocuous, they really want you for filming the police. Now they're making it easy for you. So this is the type of pushback that the courts are going to give and everything like that. So here's the case. Nieves versus Bartlett. A divided court ruled that individuals can't sue police officers for retaliatory arrest if those officers had probable cause to arrest them for any crime, no matter how minor. And that's true even if the real reason for the arrest was speech the officers didn't like, right? That freedom of speech, the First Amendment right of freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and all that kind of stuff. So if they want you for that speech right of filming the police, then they're going to get you for that. In other words, if you are jaywalking in violation of a local ordinance, officers can arrest you without fear of liability, even if they're making the arrest only because you're participating in a Black Lives Matter demonstration or wearing a Make America Great Again cap. Because local laws are full of minor infractions like loitering, they are frequently violated without incident. Police will often have a pretext to arrest people engaged in speech the officers don't like. By immunizing such abuse, Nieves may have devastating effects on demonstrators, press photographers, and anyone who wants to exercise their speech rights in public, like the right to film police or verbally challenge their officer misconduct. So here you have it, so you got to be very, very careful about all this kind of stuff. People that just want to be out there flexing their muscle and flexing their right and putting it in the officer's face, because now they're getting a little bit of pushback. In this particular case, may very well be what all officers are looking for. So let's just say you want to record the police. You're out in a motor vehicle stop, or you see a police pull someone else over on a motor vehicle stop. You yourself are engaged in a motor vehicle stop. You want to record the police. What are the best methods to go about that? Well, first, let's address it. If you're being stopped by the police, you're stopped in a vehicle and you want to record the police. So you pull out your phone. I would bring it to the officer's attention immediately. Listen, I'm filming, or live streaming, whatever. Probably better to live stream the event. So you're live streaming the events, and you just let them know that you're recording, filming, live streaming, whatever. And so therefore, put the officer on notice. Listen, and second of all, just be polite. There's no need to antagonize. Like I said, when I started this podcast, when I started this particular episode, it's the antagonism that I have a problem with. Officers are wearing body cameras now. There's dash cam videos, more than likely. There's other videos, surveillance methods out there. Just tell them, and there's no need to be antagonistic. If the officers, and I would say this to the officer too, be polite, be courteous, and everything like that. Respect and obey the law. I'm saying that to citizens, and I'm saying that to officers. Respect and be courteous one towards the other. Inform the officer that you are videotaping, that you're live streaming, what have you. As any other motor vehicle stop, if he asks you for license, registration, insurance, proof of insurance, then give it to him. Present him to it. If you have a firearm on you, notify the officer where the firearm is, that you have a license to carry, and then obviously follow every single direction that the officer gives you. This is where it is, and everything like that. License, registration, insurance is in your glove compartment. You also have your firearm in there. Inform the officer, even allow him to get the item if he or she chooses to, and obviously follow their directions. And just be very vigilant and mindful about what's going on. Be very courteous in everything you do. Be very slow, very, very methodical in your movements. Very deliberate and slow, methodical in your movements, and only do those things that he or she is telling you to do, obviously. And just be courteous, right? So just be courteous and let them know that you're filming. And don't be antagonistic. The antagonism is really the biggest problem. If you decide to help another citizen because of you think that there's some type of funny business going on the officer's part, you have not been stopped, but you see someone else who's been stopped, either a pedestrian stop, that means somebody's walking down the street and the officers just kind of pull up on them, jump out of their cars, and just approach someone who's on a pedestrian and or a bike, you want to film them, then listen, first of all, stand in a legal spot where you're not obstructing traffic, where you're not loitering. Don't stand on someone's private property, and just begin to film. Make sure you stand at least, I would say, 25 yards away. Stand in the safest distance, use your zoom, and just record. And don't antagonize the officers. There's no need to say anything to them. In most cases, unless they start engaging with you, then you start engaging with them. Again, I would say to all parties involved, just be very respectful in everything that you're doing. There's a video by a guy named Steve Silmerman of flexyourrights.org. It's called 5 Rules for Recording the Police. He goes to the Cato Institute and he's talking and dealing with them about how to deal with the police and how to film the police. 5 rules for recording the police. So that's a video that's on YouTube. It talks about how to hold the camera, what to say to the police, inform them of their rights, and things like that. So you guys can watch that video. If the officer is insistent that you stop, I certainly don't recommend that you take an arrest or submit to any type of violence. I would simply back up, let the officer politely know that, listen, I'm well within my rights. I'm doing this. It's been established according to numerous courts. I just gave you one, Glick versus Cuniffe. Cunnife, Glick versus Cuniffe, 2011 case. United States Court of Appeals, First Circuit Court held that we had the right to record. First Amendment right. So therefore, and all officers should know this by now, so just don't stand in their way. That would be my basic rule. Don't stand in their way. Don't impede. Don't instruct. Don't verbally abuse. Don't interfere with their investigation. Don't do anything active. Just simply stand there passively recording if you feel the need to do that. And if the officer is insistent that you stop, things like that, or he's going to take your camera, this also has been established. The officers cannot take your video recording device. If they try to, obviously don't fight them. Have your phone password protected and to live stream everything. That way the officers cannot take it and erase or delete anything if you have a password protection on your phone, as well as if you're live streaming it, therefore it can be deleted at another time in case they do take it. Now, officers can, if they do feel that there is some type of criminal activity, not the crime of videotaping, not the crime of wiretapping or anything like that. However, if you have recorded a possible homicide on your phone, recorded a fight, or if you recorded something else that is simply major and the officers want, then they can confiscate your phone and then they must get a warrant for it. So don't think that just because you have a phone and you're claiming to be a journalist when you're really not, and you're claiming to be a journalist, that the police officer cannot take your phone and cannot review the footage. They can get a warrant. They can confiscate your phone and get a warrant. My advice to you is to anyone who wants to film the police is that if you have any type of evidence, evidentiary value on the phone, just email it to them, give it to them. What do you have to hide? Otherwise, they're going to take your whole phone. You may not ever get it back. It's probably going to be corrupted and damaged and all that kind of stuff. And then they're going to take what they want. So if you have something on there, be courteous, respectful, and hand over the information. Email it to them, make a copy for them. Just cooperate. Therefore, they're not digging through the rest of your phone and everything like that. Now, I get it. People want to exercise their rights and they don't want to be cooperative with the police. Well, hey, that's your understanding, and it's your right not to want to go along with the police and what they're saying and what they're trying to do. So if you want to make it difficult for them, then they'll make it difficult as well. So, and here we are at this impasse. And I really just kind of wanted to elaborate a little bit about that, take away a lot of the confusion that's going on. Number one, let me just wrap this up. Listen, as I mentioned so many times in this podcast, that I really want to bring the public and the police together. And one thing we have to do is really begin to see eye to eye. Numerous laws, numerous courts have held that citizens have the right to film the police. Understand that Glick versus Cuniffe is probably the first and most definitive one. You can record the police in secret as long as they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Listen, there's no need to be antagonizing officers. No need to be walking in the police stations, exercising your rights to open carry. No need to be doing all this crazy nonsense. So understand that you have the right to record. So just be courteous and respectful in your recording of police officers. Record them and let them know what's going on. Motor vehicle stops. If you want to record them on their motor vehicle stops, let them know where everything is. Be slow in reaching for everything. If you want to help another citizen, you think another citizen's being wrong, stand at a good distance away from them. If you really care about what the officers are doing. Now, I realize that some people don't care. Some people think that there's much officer overreach. That's why the guy was with his 4 kids just filming, just with his wife and kids, filming the police, or instead of going about his way because he wants to make sure that the police officers aren't overstepping their bounds. And I get it. We need people to sometimes make sure that other people are being held accountable. And that's what the video cameras are attempting and trying to do. It's what body cams are attempting and trying to do. And I get it. I really do get it. I'm all for videotaping the police. I'm all for Overwatch. I'm all for police accountability. Please understand that. But I'm also against, very much so, antagonizing the police, calling them stupid and calling them all this kind of stuff. And any officer out there, listen, you got to know your laws, because these people out there, they know them. They know them better than we do in many circumstances. We're not thinking along these lines. We're thinking because people are just going to respect our authority. But you got to understand today that day is pretty much gone. People are not going to respect our authority. People are not going to respect your right to just run roughshod over the state constitution, over the national constitution, and over Supreme Court judgments. And so you better know what's going on. If you tell someone to get off the street, or tell someone to back up, or tell someone to move along, or they're going to be arrested, you better know why you're going to arrest them. What is it specifically and exactly that they have done and or are doing that is going to elicit an arrest? As a case in point, there's a guy in my own home city of Waterbury, Connecticut, who was just a complete idiot. He had accosted the police, and by that I mean just bothering the police and being antagonistic with his video camera, even with his open carry and things like that. And so finally they had enough, officers, and they ended up arresting him. And the sergeant who actually arrested him wrote down everything that he had done in the past in his report. And this is a good lesson for other officers who may be listening to this, is what the officer did. The sergeant who actually wrote him up was he quoted every other instant that he could think of in the report. All the times that he had been arrested, all the times he had his guns taken away, all the times he was arrested for trespass, everything that he had done in his past, put that in the report, as well as obviously the things he had done that day. You can't arrest anyone for the things they had done in the past, obviously. But what he did was he built a case as to why this was important for this day. And I think that's very telling and maybe very wise for officers going forward, that you want to build a case against any type of continual type of agitator as to what it is that they're doing. So officers out there, number one, be able to build a case. And number two, know your laws, know your rules, know your policies, procedures, and everything like that. Know that it is okay for people to take pictures of federal buildings. Yes, you can go up to them and have a conversation. You can ask them what they're doing. You can ask them for identification. You can ask them what are they doing, what's their purpose, who do they work for, if they claim to be some type of independent contractor or independent news person or independent whatever. So you can obviously go up to them and ask them these type of questions, but understand you can't stop them. You can't stop them as far as the Terry stop. You can't stop them as far as impeding their right to move. And also you cannot stop them as far as their ability to continue taking pictures and or video. So understand that as police officers, understand what you can and cannot do. You've got to understand that, because people will put you on video, and then listen, you're going to be part of a viral video this day, in this day and age. It's sooner or later, more than likely it's going to come. You're going to be in the video. So you have to be very careful and cautious about how you proceed forward. So understand what you should and should not be doing. So take a look at these different videos that I've suggested. Take a look at the different articles that I've suggested. It is okay for citizens and officers. I'm telling everyone, it is okay for people to film the police. I don't think it's okay for people to be antagonistic, or cops towards citizens or citizens towards cops. Be polite and respectful, and understand that these interactions can get a little heated because people want compliance. Officers want compliance, and citizens also want compliance as far as officers obeying and respecting the law. So understand it and do it. The citizens, I hope, that would understand that officers have been ambushed. They have been targeted and ambushed, and they don't want people collecting any type of intelligence or surveillance upon them that might cause them harm at a different time. And I stand by them with that. I would not have wanted to be surveilled either. People following me around, or following to see when I'm leaving work, or when I'm coming to work, or videotaping my license plates and things like that. That is unfair and unreasonable. And so therefore, you're always going to be getting accosted, and you're always going to be getting questioned. I hope that I said something today that people can think about your interactions. These types of interactions are not going anywhere. They're not going to stop. People are going to keep on filming the police. They're going to keep on watching the police, and there's going to be a growing phenomenon. So the police officers out there, listen, you got to be on your P's and Q's. You got to be on your toes. You got to know these laws better than they do. You got to know who can and cannot be filmed, what can and what cannot be filmed, know when they can and cannot be filmed. Understand that people can have a secret recording in their pocket. As long as you're about your daily business as a police officer, they can be filmed, and you cannot arrest them, and you more than likely will lose any lawsuit that comes against you. So be mindful of that and understand that as you go about your daily business. and as you go about your daily journeys and your tour of duty. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope I said something today that really sparks and piques your attention. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions or comments, hit me up. Captain L. Hunter, that's CPTL Hunter on Twitter, CPTL Hunter on Instagram, LMH Police Training and Consulting Services, LMH Training and Consulting Services. The email is hunterpoliceconsulting@gmail.com, hunterpoliceconsulting@gmail.com. Hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, or my email. That's it. Until next time, much love and peace. Bye.